All right. What's going on, everybody? Welcome in. How is everybody doing? My name is Ian, and I make toys. I make toy statues. Hopefully you guys are doing well today. Today, we're going to be sculpting, or continuing sculpting from last week. We were doing an Ollipheist, which is like a, it's like a sea creature dragon from Irish mythology, which is pretty cool. But, so this is where we kind of started right now. Hopefully you guys are doing okay. Life is good. Ready to sculpt some stuff? I got my coffee. I'm ready. All right. Also, too, if you guys can let me know, too, if you guys see any issues or anything like that. Looks like it's coming pretty clean, so. All right. Let's do it. Snickles with a smiley face. Hello. So last week we created pretty much a block out of the character. We did like a little test pose towards the end too. We tried to use some of the new features. So if you guys have any questions about some of the new features, I will do my best to answer them as I'm still learning them myself. But I've been playing a lot with them. They've been pretty cool. And so I got my reference off on another monitor. So if you see me kind of spacing up for a second, that's usually what's going on. But we're going to make this little block out a lot better today. And then as I go through it, I'm going to also be talking about how I'm going to be creating it for a 3D statue, keeping the 3D printing aspect in mind, as you know, so that includes balancing, that includes what type of topology we need, as long as it looks pretty cool. Though I said last week, topology for me, I'm not going to be retopoing anything, so there's no need for super clean, but we want it as neat as possible if we plan on texturing it. So right now, let's just kind of go through it a little bit. First things first, that Vegeta model on the top right is awesome. How did I get it there? Hey, no problem. This Vegeta model is actually, it's my own little model. I sculpted him a little while ago, but if you want to create your own cam view, what you need to do is go up to Preferences, go up to Cam View, and then you need to basically, you can either load in one or you can create your own cam view by hitting Make Cam View. In fact, I can kind of show you just a little bit. Before we get started, let's say I want this dragon head to be a cam view. So we'll go to Merge, we'll go to Merge Visible so we have our model the way we want it. So it'll give us this whole thing here. And then just select what you want to be the cam view. So I'm going to want just the head. And then I'll delete everything else. So delete hidden, which is geometry, modified topology, delete hidden. And then what you want to do is actually hit F and set that in the center of the viewport. Go to Make Preferences and then hit Make Cam View. And that will kind of just make sure everything gets centered. And then now you have your cam view up here. So you can see I got this little dragon head. Once you like that, you can then come here to the left side where it says Image and Texture. Click on that, and you can actually export that out. And what you would want to be able to do is actually export that into the cam view folder, which is under, if you go to your local disk, go to Program Files, go to Pixologic, ZBrush, and then under Z Startup, you have Cam View. You'd want to save that here. And as you can see, I have my Vegeta head saved right there. And then from there, you can just go ahead and hit Preferences, Quick Config, and Store Config, and save that UI. And that will get you that cam view up on top, and it'll start up every time. If you don't like that for whatever reason, or it doesn't come out the way you want it to, then you could just come over to Cam View, and you can actually select Next. And as long as that JPEG or that file is saved in that Cam View folder, you can see I'm cycling through all the presets, and then there's my Vegeta right there. Just make sure to go to Preferences and hit Store Config and save that UI out, or else it won't load up the next time. You'll have to redo that each time. So hopefully that answers your question. Not a problem. You're very welcome. All right, so let's get this dragon going. So right now I have just a bunch of subtools that I kind of just did a quick block out. So last week was kind of just blocking out the full thing. From here, we're going to go ahead and start doing some slight detailing. I mean, like, just kind of major forms. Still kind of pulling some of the shapes that we need. Pardon me, I need some water. So we're going to go through and actually start hitting up some of the other forms, getting some little details in there just to kind of see what this creature is going to look like. Again, I'm not actually copying a concept or anything. I'm actually just kind of creating this on the fly. So I'm playing around with some of my references to see what's here, what's working, and what is not working. And as you can see, I'm actually using dynamic subdivision right now. So if I turn off dynamic subdivision, I actually have very low topology. I'm not working with Dynamesh at the moment. I did that last week. Now I just ZRemeshed it. And from here, I'm just kind of going to manipulate these shapes as best as possible under dynamic. But it will get to a point where I need to start subdividing to hold those details. But let's try to push it just so we don't commit to anything, because we don't want to increase the resolution too fast. So we'll come here. And I'm actually looking at a crocodile's head at the moment. So the restream chat from YouTube is working this week. Yay! Awesome. Yeah, last week it was a little weird, wasn't it? So I'm glad that's working. Kind of smooth that down. Let's kind of work with some of these forms for a little bit. I know I want a little bit of buildup right here because that's where the horns will be. So we'll just kind of get through there. Definitely want to hit damn standard and actually just come in and start hitting up some shapes for these eyelids. And if I'm going to look at this crocodile eye, I'm actually going to be zooming in. They're a little weird, so nice. Vegeta head, nice. Thank you. Yeah, it's a fun one. I like it. I send that to the center. We're going to use live or local sim, and we're actually going to scale this up, and we'll bring that in there, trying to keep it as round as possible. Eyeballs are generally pretty big. Let's kind of move that right there. And instead of moving the eye a bunch, we're actually going to move the eyelid. There we go. How's everybody else doing today? Anybody working on their own projects? We're going to kind of relax, smooth that a little bit. So let's drop the intensity, hold shift, start smoothing and let go shift. That'll give you a relaxed smooth, just so that we're not fighting the geometry. And again, this is pretty low, so we'll probably fight it for a little bit and then we'll start subdividing when I get something I like. And eyes kind of wrap around. They're not just like straight across, they actually wrap around the eyeball itself. So we want to make sure that we're pushing in some of the corners here. Like super zoomed in at the moment. Now here, we're going to hold the damn standard and we're actually going to kind of hold Alt and actually press up a little bit. And see, now I'm actually fighting the geometry. So we're going to subdivide. So what we're going to do is go up to Geometry, Dynamic, and hit Apply. That'll automatically take us from 0 subdivision to 3 subdivision levels, which sometimes might be a little too much, but what you're usually seeing in Dynamic Subdivision is that 3. So if you think it's too much, you can always dial it back a little bit by hitting Shift D, but I think D will be just fine. I think we'll be good on the 3 subdivision. There. Hey, what's going on, Ryan? How you doing? Learning anatomy. Paul Reacher anatomy for artists. Half of the book is just text. Yeah, it helps to come in here and actually see. A really good book reference for me actually was Anatomy for Sculptors. If you guys haven't checked that one out, you really should. It's like my go-to holy grail of reference. So you can see we're getting a little bit of stepping on the geometry, but I'm not worried about that right now. I just kind of want the shapes. Let's take the clay buildup. Let's actually take the focal length or the focal shift, dial that down a little bit to kind of build up this eyelid right here. Hey! All right. Like I said, I'm taking some inspiration from a crocodile for this part. Build that up. Go. Let's kind of build his gums, or not his gums, the lip that's actually going to go around his gums a little bit. Good, grinding away. Nice, man, nice. That's the way to do it, man. All right. Let's actually see here. His mouth is open, so we're going to kind of get him hopefully snarling a little bit. Not sneezing, snarling. Go. Hola, hey, what's up, Harry? Mandibles, how you doing? Hello, Matt. It's amazing for reference. It really is, isn't it? Yeah. There we go. So I kind of have like his gums right here, and then kind of this little lip that I think I'm going to end up blending the gums into. But for right now, let's see. Yeah. Let's actually start pulling this down a little bit. All right. All right. So here I'm kind of fighting the geometry a little bit, so I'm actually going to hit Shift D, which will drop subdivision. Take a bigger brush and kind of start pushing that in a little bit towards the gums. And that's where I drew this line right here. I drew that as a guide, so I knew what I wanted to do and how I wanted to blend them in. And now we can start bring that forward. Hanging in there, nice, man, nice. Hit D on the keyboard and it actually goes up in subdivision. It's a perk of working in subdivisions. Shift D. And then D. Kind of back and forth a little bit. There we go. Okay, we're going to do the same for the body itself. You guys been using the new features? I've been playing with them a little bit more, so let me know if you guys have any questions on them, and I'll try to go over them as best I can. Some of the new features are really, really cool. We're going to go over some of the extract brush, too. That brush is awesome. Extract curve brush. There we go. Kind of just get that to connect right there. Okay, so we're not going to hyper focus in because that's kind of what everybody wants to do is hyper focus, and it's natural. But I can feel myself going that way, so best thing to do is take a big step back. Is there a way to fix very thin objects like clothes so that both of the surfaces stay separate from each other? Vanity advantage. Let's see here. So if I understand the question right. Is there a way to fix the thin object like clothes? Okay, so there's a way that I would fix clothes with thin objects, and it would deal with actually polygrouping and trying to Z-remesh and work with single-side surfaces. If you can at all times with clothing, try to work with single-sided geometry, but let me load up a quick model here, and then I'll see if I can maybe demonstrate / answer your question. So I'm going to go to... Where's my folder? I got folders everywhere, guys. I'm going to go to my base meshes, and I'm just going to pull a simple male base mesh, nothing too crazy. He doesn't even have a face. But I'm going to go ahead and just delete this lower real fast, and I'm going to quickly just mask out a t-shirt. Something like that. Nothing too special. We're just going to go ahead and really quickly get something. I'm going to sharpen that by holding Control Alt and tapping a bunch on the object. I'm going to go to Subtool, Extract. Now here's a trick that if you're extracting from, if you're using Extract to build your clothes in ZBrush, one of the things that I really encourage is that on this thickness slider, so right under Subtool, Extract, Thickness slider, take this thickness to 0 and then hit Extract. When you do that, that's actually going to create a single-sided surface for you because the thickness is not applied anymore, so it's just straight 0. So go ahead and hit Accept. If we hit Solo here, and then let's turn off the magnifying glass, you can see here that I just have a single-sided. There's nothing on the inside. If I were to go to Display Properties and Double, you can see here that it is just single-sided geometry. And then what you would want to do is go ahead and say keep creases. Go to deformation real quick and just polish by features a couple times to kind of clean up that kind of jagginess that you'll get. And then just hit geometry, modify topology, and then no, I'm sorry, not modified. Z-remesher. Geometry, Z-remesher, go ahead and hit Z-remesh, hit keep creases, and that will give you something pretty usable. Now, to fix your clothing, let's say you don't really like this. Let's say you have something, we're going to go Z-modeler. We're just going to quickly extrude something so you have something like this, right? Or it's too thin. And you're working with something like this. What I really recommend to fix that is to either group by normals and try to get a different polygroup. So if you see if it's all one polygroup and it's just too thin to work with, what you can do is go to, where are we, polygroups, and then go group by normals. And that should actually give you different polygroups that you can Control-Shift-Tap on. So then you can get back to that single-sided geometry. If you want them separate from each other, then what you can do is split hidden. And now you have an outside of the shirt and then on the inside, but you can see the normals are kind of flipped. So you'd want to actually go and fix that. And I believe that is under geometry, modify topology. I have a shortcut and I forgot where it's at. Flip normals, flip. Maybe that's under polygroups. I forgot where that's at. So I'll have to. But hopefully that answers your question on that one. Vanity. Hey, what's up, Comics Legends? How you doing? New features confuse me a bit, especially when there are different ways to use the same brush with and without light boolean. I need to keep trying them out and get used to them. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Volpixel. How you doing? Hey, Roboto. Kendo. Hope I said that right. How you doing, dude? Hello. So let me know if that answers your question, Vanity. You would really want to get back to this level and work with subdivisions as much as possible, and using the Z-modeler brush to kind of quickly select certain areas and extrude it out. That would be your best bet, in my opinion. And if you have something that is dynameshed, let's try that real quick. So if you have something that's dynameshed that's giving you a lot of problems, even when it's like soloed out like that, you can either use the extract method, or what you can try to do is go to, try to Z-remesh it at that point with Z-remesher. and see what kind of solution you get. And then from there, you can actually, it's like, from there, you can actually extrude it out and actually create a single-sided surface, which I'll show you right now too, is another way to do it. Of course, now it's thinking because, you know, I did that thing. You can use the Topological Auto Mask 2 in ZBrush. You can, yeah. You can do that as well. You can also control the thickness. So if you got something like this here, you can then go ahead and try to, again, group by normals. You can even play with the max angle slider to try to group by normals, which will give you different options. Control tap with the select rec, and then this will give you that single-sided as well. And then you can delete hidden and close holes, or ZRemesh at this point. So yeah, there's a bunch of ways to do it. Hopefully that works for you. You're trying it right now? Perfect. At the end of the day too, if it's giving you too much problem to work with, it's okay to rebuild. So if you're really trying something and it's just kind of corrupt and you don't have a backup source, it's okay to rebuild and try it again. Sometimes, in my experience, when I come back and try again, I actually do it better the second time. So don't be afraid to take a step back if it's giving you too much problems. Okay, let's go back to our dragon. All right. So what we're gonna do is actually start adding a few, like some scales. I want some like kind of big, bold scales running down the belly of him. So what I would like to do, there's a couple of ways we can do this. In fact, one of the old school ways, the way I like to do is the same way I like to do with cloth. We can actually go ahead and kind of use the mask extract, or we can use a new feature. So what we're gonna do is actually kick it up in subdivision. And I'm going to go ahead and actually, let's duplicate it by holding Control-Shift-D. That will go ahead and duplicate any selected layer. And let's solo that out for a second. Go to Geometry, delete lower. Now I'm going to hold Control, and we're actually going to use the Mesh Project, which is a new feature. And we're just going to try to get something here that we like. And I think I'm actually going to use the curve. What is going on in my throat today? I'm actually going to use the curve so we can actually get some sharper edges. So I'm going to bring this up. I'm actually going to go ahead and... Okay, yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and let's drop the intensity. So by holding Shift and then hitting Control, actually can bring up the intensity slider, drop that down a little bit. So I'm going to start dragging this out. I'm going to double tap Alt, which will give me a sharper edge. Double tap Alt, sharper edge, and then let go. That's going to give me something like this. And that's not too bad. And then what we're going to do is actually go ahead and let's split on Mast. Hit down on the keyboard. So now we're just working with this right here. I'm actually going to turn off symmetry, delete the screen right. If I'm looking at the model on the front, screen right side of it, and delete hidden. I'm going to go ahead and kind of mask this area off here. So let's grab the mask brush, the mask lasso. Kind of grab this. I'm actually going to just manually move this over so that it's on the opposite side. It's like going halfway. It's going beyond halfway. You'll see why in a second. There we go. Hey, what's up, Hopper? How you doing, buddy? Welcome in, welcome in. This way is definitely better. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. All right. So now that we have this kind of on the opposite side, it's like kind of moving on over. It crosses the halfway mark. What we'll do is we'll actually go to modify topology. I mean, not blah. Geometry, modify topology. And then we're going to hit mirror and weld. And mirror and weld goes from screen left to screen right. So if we click that, now we're going to get this kind of shape right here. And if it doesn't go all in one shot, that's okay. Just kind of mask the middle. And kind of move that over the rest of the way. So let's mask right here. Kind of soften that. Let's just move it over a little bit. And then we're going to go ahead and do it one more time. Mirror and weld, and that's going to go ahead and kind of fix that and also give us kind of a crease down the middle, which is actually what I want. So kind of bring this up a little bit. So we're going to get something like that. Now we're just going to kind of play with this a little bit. And then see with when we use the new feature Mast mesh project, the really cool thing is that it gives you all of this, all these polygroups and all these creases. And I'm actually going to use that to my advantage. So if some of them aren't creased or you kind of broke it, for whatever reason, go to crease and then hit crease polygroups or crease polygatry if you want to remember it that way, which is how I learned it. So that's going to crease all those edges. Now we're going to Z remesh this. So hit Z remesh. We're going to keep groups, keep creases, and then Z remesh. That moment when you're like, your throat just hates you for some reason. All right. Now, it didn't quite keep this crease in the middle the way I liked it. But also, that's because the geometry is kind of busted right there. So once we have it like this, we're actually going to go back and hit mirror and weld. When you hit mirror and weld on cleaner topology, you'll see it actually creates, if we look at it straight on, here's the before, here's the after. It's actually creating this line right down the middle. And that's what I want, because I want to crease this line so that I get a nice sharp edge in the middle, kind of acting more like armor. So we'll hit BZM for the Z modeler brush, hover over an edge, zoom in. And then we're going to hit crease and crease complete loop right down the middle. Of course, that kind of creased everything, didn't it? Okay, then let's Z remesh it one more time. Make sure, we want to make sure that symmetry is turned on. And then go ahead and Z remesh one more time. Just going for some cleaner topology. We can even drop it a little bit. Instead of 5, let's go 3. And then we can kind of smooth relax this a little bit. So we're just trying to get good edge flow, which I think we have it now. So we hover over back that line, and now right down the middle, it's kind of creasing, which is perfect. That's what I would like to have happen. And then I'm gonna, with Z modeler as well, I'm gonna go ahead and hover over that one more time. We're gonna go with, where is it? Move. We want to move the whole edge. Hey, Max Davenport, hey! Hello, hello. Gordon Neal, what's happening? I want to move that whole edge, so let's actually go to slide. Complete edge loop. Nope, maybe not. Okay. Then what we're going to do is we're just going to mask that spot. Just going to mask right down the middle. Just this one loop. Turn off symmetry, stick it right in the middle. We're actually going to kind of pull this up a little bit. So again, I want this really nice sharp edge. And so we're going to pull that up so that we get this kind of crease happening. And then with Z modeler, we're going to hover over an edge one more time. I'm going to go to insert, make sure that symmetry is turned on. And I'm actually going to add in a couple supporting edge loops so that I get kind of a decent fall off here, but it's still sharp. Hey, what's going on, John? Welcome in, welcome in. All right. So now I have the makings of his kind of belly armor that we're going to be building. We're just gonna go ahead and actually just move it around a little bit, make sure it's sitting where we want it to sit. Group by normals was grouping the whole object, but I masked the whole object and extract it, and then the poly grouping worked. Thanks. Awesome. Just know too that when you are doing group by normals, there's a slider right here, and it's defaulted to 45. Go ahead and take that slider and slide that slider down to as low as you would like it, and then hit it again, and I'll actually group by normals on sharper edges. Just be careful though, because sometimes it'll group really weird. But if you're really trying to get an edge, that's a good way to do it. 45 is the normal, but you can adjust that. But masking also works, so yay, I'm glad you got it. Okay, now that we have that, we're gonna... Okay, this is perfectly in the middle. Great, let's save it. Save. Of course, I saved in the wrong spot. Don't beat me. There we go. Okay, and now we're gonna do is a fun little trick where we have an odd shape. His belly is kind of... Again, his belly is kind of, you know, it's not a straight line. So we're going to have to kind of do this by hand a little bit. But if we hold control, and as long as you don't have any subdivisions, you're just on dynamic or even Dynamesh, although be careful with Dynamesh. If you hold control with the gizmo up and hit the arrow, you'll actually duplicate that object. If you let go while you're still moving the arrow, you'll duplicate a bunch depending on that distance. Now, that's useful for straight lines, but for what I want to do, that's not going to be so useful. So we're actually going to hold control, move it, let go, and now we just have the single. And then we're going to come in here and actually start moving this around where we want it. So sometimes there could be a little bit of a tedious approach to things, but at the end of the day, too, I really want ultimate control of how this armor is going to look. And so I'm just going to manually move each one into its place so that I know what I'm getting for each one. Like I said, his belly is kind of abnormally different, so it's not just a straight line. So we're going to go ahead and just kind of work this around a little bit. So I have transparency turned on as well. So that way I can see through his body and then make adjustments on the fly as needed. There we go. And again, we're not going for perfection here. Once we have that, go ahead, hit the gizmo for hitting W, and then we're going to just hold control, duplicate another one, and move that around. There we go. Make sure symmetry is turned on. I do that a lot where I'll hit X to turn symmetry off, and then I'll forget to turn it on. It happens to me all the time. So just make sure to turn it back on. There we go. Control, drag out the next one. And we're just going to keep doing this until we get all of the shapes that we want. And what's neat is right now everything is still very low. If I turn on polygroups by hitting Shift F and then come on over to geometry, dynamic subdivision, and turn this off, you can see here that we're just working with dynamic subdivisions. We don't have anything. It's still very low, but I'm going to probably ZBrush it further to keep it down. So I'm not really worried about if it gets a little warbly right now. I'm just looking for the main shapes and everything. Let's take the move brush, scale it up. And even here, like, things are getting a little bit maybe further away. So I can go ahead and grab his belly too and work with his belly. Ooh, I have double his belly. Why do I have two bellies? Because I duplicated it. Makes sense. Let's delete that one. We don't need that one. There we go. Now we can grab this one by hitting. What I like to do is hold Alt and tap, and then now I can actually adjust his body to the scales as well. So I don't have to just adjust the scales. Okay, now at this point, I actually cleared out my mask accidentally. So what I could do is one of two things. I can either do auto groups and get different ones, or I can, go back and try to hit, Control Z to try to get the masking that I want. Either way is fine if you're not going too far back, but of course, in this case, I'm going to go ahead and auto group it by going to polygroups and auto groups. And then I'm actually going to go ahead and drop this max to 25 and then hit group by normals when I'm ready. This duplicate thing, which button we have to use to press? Oh, okay. Yeah. So I'm going to back it up a little bit. So when you have your gizmo out, just hold Control and then start dragging, and that will automatically duplicate it as long as you don't have any subdivisions. And then, of course, let's back that up for a second. If you want to duplicate multiple ones, hold Control, drag it, let go of Control, and then keep dragging, and that will duplicate multiple times. So you just want to make sure to hold the Control button down, and that will duplicate. Let go completely, and then position it where you would like to. Not a problem. Sorry, your name's a little hard to read because it's red on my side, which is X-Men Zudo. Awesome, not a problem. Best way to export the micro poly mesh to Maya or Keyshot. The way I usually export my micro poly is you're gonna have to apply it. So when you go to Geometry, Dynamic Subdivision, and you have micro poly turned on. So let's say we have something like this. What you're actually gonna have to end up doing is making sure you apply Dynamic Subdivision. And when you do that, that turns it into real geometry, and then you can export that out. You can, and you can see here the option is now turned off. But if you have it not applied, it's just projecting it. It's not actually there. So you have to make sure you hit apply, and then you can export it out to whichever program you want. Hey, Chris Freeze, how you doing? Wasn't able to import on mine. Just keeps crashing and loading. You may want to restart. That's a tough one. It might be too much. It might be too much geometry. The thing to remember when you're working with dynamic subdivision and you have micro poly turned on, if you look right here at the very top, my active points right now are 27,000, which is not a lot. But as soon as I apply this, that number jumped to 137,000. So almost 6 times, 7 times, I'm bad with math, the amount of geometry from the from the first initial, before we applied it. So if your model is too dense, and then you go ahead and hit apply, you actually could crash your whole model just because it's too thick. You can easily jump from 100,000 active points to 13 million if you're not careful, which I've done. So try to make sure that when you are using micropoly that you're using it on very low geometry, because again, it's just projecting and then it's applying once you hit apply, turning it into real geometry, which gets dense really fast. The headset I'm using is the Astro A10, but I'm not using the mic for the Astro A10, if you're curious about that. I'm actually using a condenser mic. So just be careful with that micro poly. That can get you real quick. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and continue this scaling. Control and maneuver. Kind of move that back a little bit. I'm also trying to keep them relatively the same distance, but I'm not really like going super crazy with ensuring that it is. That's so. If anybody was wondering, go ahead and control, drag this out. Links. Hello, hello, hello. Well, here, if you guys would like to see some of my stuff, check out my ArtStation, some of the stuff I 3D print, etc., etc. There is my stuff right there. And I have a YouTube channel where I drop some tutorials. I haven't dropped one recently. I've been busy with commissions, but I want to get more onto it as well. So if you guys at the bottom check out my Discord, come on in, hang out with artists. You know, we just bunch of cool peeps hanging out. If you guys have suggestions for things you'd like to see on YouTube, you can always let me know. I want to start getting into that a little bit more. Okay. Let me kind of pull this up a little bit more. I'm definitely going to want to Z-remesh this a bit because I can already see it's just kind of getting out of hand a little bit. But we're not worried about it yet. We're going to get all of them done first. Kind of drag that in a little bit. Control that. Hey, what's up, Next Knox? How you doing? There we go. So I'm just using the move brush and the gizmo to duplicate the mesh that we created with the mesh project. And then I'll tap on his body and kind of just moving his body around to fit the needs of what we're going for. And a big thing to remember too, guys, is when you're sculpting, everything kind of stays in like the valley of the suck, as as I like to call it, and it definitely just takes time too. So if you're feeling like, I wish this would look prettier quicker, just hang in there. It will look pretty, I promise. I was importing 8.9 million. Yeah, that'll do it real fast. Yeah, be careful. I learned my lesson on that when it first, I think it came out in 2020, if I remember. Like, right when it came out, I was super happy about it, and then I was using it, and then, yeah, I crashed everything real fast. Yeah, that's the decent load of polys. Maybe try exporting it. Exactly, yeah. Yeah, that could be rough, man. I get you. Okay. We're halfway there, guys. We're halfway there. All right. Let's keep it up. Keep it up. Actually, that one wasn't too bad. Let's go ahead and duplicate the next one. There we go. Just kind of bring that down a little bit. And I have a pose in mind for doing an anti-gravity base. So if those of you are interested in anti-gravity bases for 3D printing, definitely when we start posing, I want to kind of start test posting before the date's out. I think we can get there. It'll be a lot of fun. Now we're gonna run into a problem here where I don't want to change the scale of the scales. That was terrible, no pun intended. But what we're gonna do is actually grab the body, and we're gonna move his little fins out the way a bit. So we'll grab this right here. Soften it a bunch. Send it on over by holding Alt. If you have the gizmo, you hold Alt and then hit the reset, hit the little kind of location icon. That'll send it to whatever point for symmetry that you need it to, and then you can just kind of back this up. We can kind of repivot these a little bit. Even stretch that out. There we go. And this is still very low geometry at this point. So we can kind of relax, smooth, move that out the way, and then go back to the scales. But let's see. Oh, but depending on your application, you might want to optimize that. Yeah, exactly. Oh, thank you so much. I love my female on the ArtStation. Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Hey, Pixologic, so happy that you're allowed remote university licenses for students. Heck yeah. Well, welcome in, welcome in. Like I said before, if you guys have any questions, please feel free. Ask away. I'll do my best to answer. There we go. So now we got enough space, and we can just continue on doing the thing that we're doing. There we go. Bloop. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Are you guys excited for the new features? Like, what are your favorite new features so far? I'd have to say by far right now, I know everybody's gonna probably say Mesh Balloon because that is, but Mesh Extrude, I'm actually slowly really loving, but I'd say Mesh Splat is probably one of my favorite right now. Hey, my ice turned out pretty well in the Sub-Zero. It did, yeah. Yeah, you guys want to see what I was working on, what Ryan's talking about over on my ArtStation. I actually just uploaded it. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Yeah, if you guys want to check out. I just uploaded my Sub-Zero, and yeah, I had a lot of fun trying to figure out this this ice texture, which is pretty cool. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. It took all day. Alright, we're going to go ahead and kind of move that there. Bring that down. Alright. Just kind of move this on up. Go. Now I'm going to want to actually start kind of uniforming these two. So we're getting to the point where his body is starting to taper. And so I'm going to actually want to start tapering the scales as well. So one of the things I'll start doing is just start squeezing it in just a little bit. Again, still not worried about the geometry whatsoever. We're just trying to get our shapes in there so that we have something to work with. Go ahead, hold control, drag it out. Hey guys, I'm a new user of ZBrush. Could you please advise, is it possible to customize my mouse navigation control interaction? I have no tablet yet, and I'm using 10 years my own interaction in 4D. So switching to ZBrush defaults is driving you crazy. Unfortunately, I'm not quite aware of if you can actually manipulate the mouse that way. It's very much one click that I know. But what you could do is hit up Pixologic. You can go to pixologic.com, email support, and you can get a more direct answer for that. But unfortunately, I don't know if there's a way to do that. Sorry. But I do know that you can get a pretty inexpensive tablet, which I recommend. There are companies like they're like pretty affordable ones. Like I'm using an XP pen. You don't have to get anything with a screen. You can get one for a few bucks. But yeah. Yours is Mesh Project? Yeah. Mesh Project is fun, isn't it? Yeah. Sorry, I wish I had a better answer for you. I rushed. But I will say you do get the most bang for your buck with a tablet. That is for sure. You have a lot more control. Although that being said, I do know people who have used a mouse. They just kind of move it around, and I've seen some cool stuff that could be done. So, but yeah, I would just reach out to Pixologic themselves and see if they can help you further. That ice looks so good. Yay! Hey, Kamara! Hello! Your name is so purple that it's almost hard to read. Hello, hello! You know what's funny, guys? Okay, so this is what I'm talking about too. When you're like not sure if you like something, I like the latest project I did, which was the Sub-Zero, but for a long time I was just like, I don't know if this is gonna be any good. There's definitely a feeling that happens, but you just keep working through it. I think I tried that ice like 4 or 5 times, and it looked really good in ZBrush, so I was happy with it. Okay, control, drag that out. So you can see here, we're just kind of, again, just repeating. Some things can get a little tedious this way, but for me, this is how I get the best control. I make the shape that I like, and then I just keep moving until I get it. But you can see, if we look all the way back out here, yeah, it's starting to give me the results I want. Just drag this over, click here, bring this up. Start scaling this down a little bit. Now when that happens, let's solo this out. So when you scale, by the way, the thickness will also be scaled if you uniformly scale. So every once in a while, I'll make sure to kind of bring up, or even just kind of drag along the y-axis, or whatever axis is in the way that I need. Drag that just to make sure it stays relatively the same thickness if possible. And see here, we're running into that same issue, but we're going to scale that down. Let's grab the body one more time. And we're just going to go ahead and select there. Unmask that, soften it. Alt-tap will actually bring your gizmo wherever you want it. And then just kind of reset that, and then we can kind of move that out the way and push this out and actually pull this in a little bit. It is a sea creature, so we're just giving him lots of fins. Position is irrelevant. There we go. And again, just hold shift, start smoothing, let go of shift, and you'll do like a relaxed smooth, which is fine. Oh, no, I mean, you'll have to actually contact Pixologic. Here, 1 second. Yeah, I'm not sure I'm just not sure if there's a way to do that. So if you go to Pixologic, go to support, and go ahead and just kind of reach out to them, go to the support center and reach out and see if they can help you further with that. I just don't know if there's another way. Yeah, I still use a mouse and ZBrush, but it's no good for your wrist fingers. Yeah, no, I recommend getting a tablet. Like I said, you can get a pretty affordable tablet for like 20-30 bucks. You know, there are companies that can get you started. I recommend a tablet, you know, not because it's impossible to do it with a mouse. It's just easier. A lot of features are dedicated for tablet use. I don't know if there is I just don't know if there is a mouse support there. So you'd have to definitely contact them. Sorry. Wish I had a better answer. Okay. Let's go ahead and hit control. Okay, so I saw like this was pretty obviously one was longer than the other, but I don't really want to adjust that just yet. Now what I do want is I want to start bending the scales a little bit. So I'm actually going to hit Y on the keyboard and it's going to bring up the transpose tool. I'm going to solo this out. I'm going to just drag about right there. I'm going to hold Alt. I'm going to hover over the middle, hold Alt. I'm actually going to start kind of bending this scale a little bit. By holding Alt, you can actually bend your shape and kind of get like this really weird, like kind of just like arc. And that's going to help me get the proper bend that I want. So I'm going to drag this up. I'm going to go pretty far. Hold Alt. Just start bending it a little bit. Everything else is still masked, which is fine. Hit Y again. Turn off symmetry, send that into the middle. Turn this back on, and now I'm going to just go ahead and bring this up. It's a neat little trick if you want to kind of bend something, but you don't want to use the move brush. Been thinking about changing my chat color anyway. They gave me a good excuse. Awesome. Yay! Glad I can help. Alright, we're going to go ahead and scale this down a little bit. Bring this in here. Bloop. And again, we'll just continue on forward. Start rotating this around. And yep. Keep on, keep on. We are almost done. But I do want to take this pretty far to the end of his tail, so we're almost there, guys. Anything to do right just takes a little extra time. There we go. Go ahead and keep dragging them. I might get a little sloppy here too, actually, just to kind of move on a little bit. But we're getting to that point where it's pretty easy sailing. It's just rinse and repeat at this point. There we go. And the only reason why I'm doing one at a time is there is this urge to want to auto groups and grab a few at a time, but then I still have to move each one individually. So in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, I could do this a lot faster if I just have 3 or 4 that I grab. But in my experience, that's not always the case. So doing one at a time, even though this is super tedious, sometimes might be the best approach. It just depends. Depends on your overall goal. But I knew I had to get all of these out. And instead of dragging and manipulating multiple ones, one at a time just kind of works for me. So I know this part gets a little boring. We'll try to finish it up. Get there like this. Boop. There we go. There we go. Getting there, getting there. There we go. Yeah, perfect. And it's a nice gradual taper too. I might even take these belly ones and flare these out a little bit more too, just so that breaks symmetry and looks pretty clean. Because even though we're trying to keep things uniform right now, it is definitely best to try to give it some sort of shape and feel. If that makes any sense. Especially when character creating. If you're creating your own character, you definitely want to try to get a lot of that flow if you can. Oops. Alt too many times. There we go. Drag that. Drag that. There we go. We're almost at the end. Yay. All right. Is it Sunday already? Wow. Yeah. Hey, gaming. How you doing? Yeah, it's Sunday. Sunday. And we're about an hour in. I usually go to 8 p.m. But yep. And if you guys would like to as well, my thought is, if I were to do this, because projects take a while sometimes, right? So if I were to do this just every Sunday, I may not get it as far as I want. So what I'm thinking about doing is, during some of my own personal live streams, maybe continuing this as well, so that way we can get further along and get it closer to the 3D printing part, which I know so many people are eager, even myself, are eager to get to. Just because there's a lot to think about when you start getting into the 3D printing process. Even though, in all honesty, I'm currently thinking about it all right now. I kind of have a pose in mind, and I'm also kind of trying to keep in mind the kind of rule of thumb of no supports at 45-degree angle. So when I'm posing my character, I'm trying to think of the easiest way that I would want to print him. And I keep all of that in the back of my head. Even at this stage, I'm constantly trying to think about it. And that just comes a little bit from printing experience, but I'll explain it more vocally once we get closer there to those points, so you guys can definitely see what I'm talking about. Come on, his head keeps getting in my way. So at this point, because his head keeps getting in my way, right, I'm going to grab the body. This is a really cool trick. I'm actually going to just go ahead and select the part of the body that I definitely need to work on. Everything else is done. I'm going to go to Subtool. I'm going to turn everything else off except for his body and his scales. So now his head doesn't get in my way. And I'm going to come back to the scales. And I'm going to continue doing this. And now when I move over like this, nothing is in my way, so to speak. Is there any chance of you guys to give away ZBrush license? Just asking. Not at this time. I don't know any of that. At this time, I can't answer that. I default to array mesh, but I would waste so much time tweaking the settings. Yeah, I've done that too, Ryan. I feel like array mesh, I use that a lot more when I'm trying to have something symmetrical off to the side, but I'm also having it in symmetry, where here everything is already in symmetry, so I feel like array mesh would be a little bit of a waste of the time for me to sit there and set it up. That makes sense, yeah. Can you show full thing? Yes, I can. Loop. This is the block out currently. Don't mind the ball in his mouth right there. This is where we are right now. In fact, while I'm working on this, let's actually go ahead and I'm going to hit Control-Shift, kind of stamp that in the corner. And then I'm going to turn it all off. And then I'm going to work with just the section I need so you can see the whole thing as I work. Turn that back on. There we go. We're almost done with all the scales. We're almost done. Go zoom that in. And I'm thinking that I'm actually going to want him pretty big. I'm thinking I'm going to want him, I don't know, maybe about 8-9 inches tall. Maybe a little bit bigger than that. We'll see. Right now I just kind of want to finish getting the rest of the scales on him. Hello! Hey, what's going on, Polyan? Will the whole dragon have these scales? Yes, these are his belly scales. So all the way down to his tail, they will be on there. But then I was thinking about doing some kind of slimy skin texture on the top. All of it will be done in ZBrush. So it's going to be a lot of fun. If we just saw this out for a second. Okay, cool. I always get fatigued doing this kind of work. I get halfway through the scales and go work elsewhere and come back. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, Mr. Fox. What I try to do is, like, because I know I'm just kind of placing them, I'm definitely in the back of my head like, hurry up! You can finish it. So I feel you. But I know once I do this, it's going to be a lot simpler. And then I'm even thinking about, for texturing the scales, using micropoly or nanomesh to get some sort of texture on it quickly once this is all laid out. and once we start getting into those details, of course. We're still ways away from that. Hey, Jaker, what's going on? Yeah, the whole piece is actually right here right now. It's kind of off on the side a little bit. It's still in the blackout phase at the moment. But it is getting there. We're almost done. In fact, I think that's actually where I'm going to kind of... Nope, let's not do that. We're almost done. Because I have like some sort of like kind of interesting tail design I want to do. I'm thinking about using balloon mesh 4. So let's go ahead. I'm just going to kind of quickly push this part through. I don't want to be working on scales for 2 hours. All right. For those of you who are coming in and you're new, my name is Ian and I make statues. And we 3D print them, and it's a lot of fun. And we go over the process. All right. Okay, I think we're going to stop right there. We're going to go ahead and clear the mask. And then let's go ahead and actually clear this whole screen. Let's turn everything back on. Okay. So this is kind of what we have right now. Now, the scales are obviously really just kind of hideous at the moment. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go to polygroups and I'm going to hit auto groups so that we have this right now. And then what I'm going to do is actually go to geometry, ZBrush. We're going to keep groups, keep creases, and we're going to go really low. Let's go at let's try 0.5 target poly. Make sure that symmetry is turned on. And then let's go ahead and ZBrush. Kind of rebuild everything, but we want to keep those creases to keep those shape. So for 3D printing, you have to decimate in the end, or can you export it just like that? It is definitely imperative to decimate after you merge everything together. When we get closer to the final product, I'm going to actually explain that whole process. But for the most part, Angus, what you would like to do is make sure that every subtool that gets merged together is clearly intersecting, and then from there you want to merge those together, then decimate it down so you don't have such a massive subtool. If this was like 13 million polys, I don't want to be exporting that out as 13 million. There might be slicer. I don't think there'll be a slicer for printing that would actually accept it at that high correctly. So you definitely want to decimate to bring it down as much as possible. Am I going to share the STL? I might share the STL, right? I might. How to fill the holes with these micropolys. If you have holes in their micropolys, try to use modified topology and close holes and weld points. That might help you. This looks great. What's the concept behind this character? The concept is actually, because here at Pixologic we're actually doing Irish Celtic mythology. We actually, I picked this really cool dragon. I believe I'm pronouncing it right. It's called the Ollipheist. I think that's right. And it's a mythological. So wow, I can't speak. It's a mythological creature that is in Irish folklore, and it's pretty cool. And I know I was thinking about doing a leprechaun for St. Paddy's Day, but I decided against it and wanted to do something a little cooler, a little different. All right, I did not like this. This is a little too low, and you can see it's kind of breaking in some spots. So I'm gonna hit Control Z, go back to ZBrush, and actually kick this up to like maybe a 1, and let's try it again. Let's see here. Let's see. Will you be modeling the Mortal Kombat Dragon? Most likely not, Comics Legend. Although that is a great idea. Hey, what's up, Daniel? Pixologic. Hi, Ian. What printer do you use? I use a Epax X1 printer for resin and a Ender 3 by Creality for my FDM. Both really good machines. And the Epax X1, for those of you who don't know, it's a lot like your Elgu Mars almost. Just a little bit more expensive. It's built locally in the US. Okay, that's actually not too bad of topology. Let me see if I hit dynamic subdivision. Yeah, it's not really giving me what I want. It's still a little too low, which I didn't think I'd ever say that. So let's go back to 1.5. Let's back it up. And let's try 2. And it's okay. If you ZBrush and you don't like something, just don't be afraid to do it again. Sometimes it takes a couple bit to get the results you want. That's a lot better. I really do like that. Great. Cool. We're going to keep that pretty low for right now. Let's go ahead and fix some of these. Oh, that kind of got broken here a bit. Okay. Then let's go back and try a little higher. Let's try it at 5. Apparently 2 is too low. I want to not have the shapes collide, so I'm going to do this a few times until I get what I want. There we go. That's better. Okay, great. But now what I can do is I can take my move brush. I can go ahead and start pulling some of these out and getting a little bit more custom to his figure. And we're going to give him a weak spot. So his chin will be his weak spot. Awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I'm actually working on setting him for 3D print as well. Yeah, I was super inspired by the Mortal Kombat movie. A lot of the stuff you'll see on my personal accounts will be a lot of fan art and stuff like that, because I can't most of the time I can't share my professional project, so I always try to have a personal project happening. There we go. So we're just gonna move this around. So now I'm kind of looking at like that taper shape. It starts out kind of narrow at his neck, and then it's going to flare out by his belly because we want to protect his belly. But then it's going to start kind of pinching in again. Maybe we'll get this flared out a little bit more. So even though he's a, mythological creature, folklore, I'm still trying to ground him in reality somewhat. It would make sense if he had some sort of armor on his belly. It would be to protect him. That's kind of what we want to do. I am from California. Oh, I see. Sounds fun. Yeah. Hello. What's up, Mojo? Awesome work, by the way. Thank you so much. Can you imagine the Mortal Kombat dragon cracking through your eyes? Brian, you always have the best ideas, man. And I can imagine that. You have this CR10 for FDM. Nice. And how do you like that machine? I was looking at that machine when I ended up getting the my Ender 3. I thought it was pretty cool. Okay, I'm also going to turn on transparency so I can just kind of keep that shape. Now we are going to be kind of moving him around, and we may have to fix the scales when we pose him, so I'm not going to be spending a lot of time detailing him at the moment. So let's kind of move on to another portion of him. Let's try to get the tail. Like okay, so here's the thing. When you're thinking about posing and stuff, I kind of did this little to keep a fun shape about him, but at the end of the day, I probably should have it straight. I'm going to ignore it. We're going to leave it right there for now. That's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. Okay. Let's go ahead and let's get some fins on him. Let's make him a little bit more awesome. So I'm going to take the ZRemesh, not the ZRemesh, the snake hook. And I'm actually going to turn on Sculptris Pro because I want to kind of give him fins on the back a little bit. And so what we're going to do is we're actually going to up the, when you're using Sculptris Pro, you cannot have subdivisions. So we're going to go ahead and delete lower on this so we have something to work with. Turn this part on, and we have symmetry turned on. I'm going to shoot him off to the side a little bit. Actually, you know what? Change my mind. Let's do something else. Let's actually lower his body here. I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to delete lower. I'm going to solo this out for a second. Let's actually use the mesh balloon for this. How do you know the real world scaling in ZBrush? For the real world scaling in ZBrush, what you want to be able to do when you're ready for it is come up to Z plugin, and you're going to go to scale master, and then whatever subtool you have selected is what's going to set your scale. What I like to do is I like to take a cube. I would insert a cube. I would size this cube to whatever I needed it to, or just, you know, kind of just leave it as is. Come up here, Z plugin, and then hit set scene scale, and it'll automatically give you options for millimeter, inch, etc., etc. Go ahead and click millimeters, and let's say I want this to be 1 inch cube. So go back to Z plugin, and right down here, if I pull up the magnifying glass, you have these sliders. If you click this and type 25.4, that's about 1 inch in millimeters. Go ahead and hit resize subtool when you're ready, and that will set everything to that cube at that scale. Our projects are never done, right? Yeah, no, they're not. It's such a lovely machine. Good one for beginners. I've been printing for 4 years. That is awesome. I'm glad. So that's how you would set the real world scale. And we will actually be getting into that once I get this mostly built and start prepping for posing and setting up. Okay, so with the balloon mesh, what I'm going to do is actually kind of lasso out a few fins, actually. So I'm going to drag here, hold shift, let go. That's going to send that into the middle. And because I duplicated this, I'm actually going to select just the, because it gives us a new polygroup, I'm just going to select the fin I want by holding Control Shift and tapping on that polygroup. I'm going to delete hidden. And now I'm going to go ahead and actually make a few more by copying this out, holding Control, dragging it. I'm going to do this a few times. We'll kind of set these where we want. A couple more. And so you can see here, I kind of set up this little ridge right here, where his spine would be for where those fins would be when we get to it. So I'm gonna go ahead and just do a couple like such. Kind of make sure everything's in the middle, which it looks like it. And now I'm going to go ahead with polygroups turned on. I'm going to go to polygroups, and then I'm going to hit auto groups. So that'll give me something different. And then we're going to go ahead and ZRemesh. And we'll keep groups. And we'll do that to like a 5. And let's make sure symmetry is turned on, which it is. Okay, good. So geometry, ZRemesher, keep groups. Now, here's the thing that I've noticed when it comes to using the balloon mesh and you have symmetry turned on and you use shift to send your balloon mesh into the middle, it creates 2 in the middle. And so when you ZRemesh, this might become a little bit more apparent. So all you really want to do is go to polygroups, hit auto groups, and then Control tap, and then Control tap to get rid of those duplicates. So we have just the regular ones, and then you want to just go ahead and delete hidden. And now we have this part right here. Now we can actually isolate this one. Actually make some of this work for us. Use the move brush. Make sure symmetry is turned on. And if you don't know if symmetry is turned on, if you have, it's a little hard to see, but the red ring, if you hit X, the outer red ring has a second ring when symmetry is turned on, and when you hit X, it's off. It's really hard to see here in the stream, I know, but if you're ever curious, just look at your red ring, and that outer one, if it's a single edge, if it's a single ring, you're not on symmetry. If there's two rings, you are on symmetry. Interesting. It doesn't start in the corner. It starts, if you go to picker, go to depth, it starts wherever I touch because it's usually set to the 1C. But I can actually have this set to continuous and have it wrapped too. But yeah. I have nightmares about all my unfinished projects. I think we all do. Comment section, I guarantee. Yeah, I feel you, man. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of turn off my Sculptris Pro because I don't need that right now. Okay. Just going to grab this one right here. Scale this one up a little bit. There we go, because we're going to be making the fins here in a second. Okay. And you can see how they all kind of come to a point right now. So what we can do, let's see if we can kind of round that out a little bit. We'll lower the ZRemesher to, let's say, about 2. Keep groups on. Let's try that one more time. Ooh, I kind of broke it. Why did that break it? Maybe it's too low. Let's try 4. Why is that breaking it? Why are you breaking? That's so bizarre. Let me see why that's breaking. Let me fix that. Okay, well, don't know why it's breaking, but it is. So we're gonna fix all of that. So I wanna just kind of smooth the tips of these. When in doubt, throw it out. Just delete that one. Let's go to auto groups. So polygroups and hit auto groups. Again, see there's a double here. Kind of tap that. Delete hidden. Actually going to delete the ones I don't want. Select that guy. Control copy it. There we go. Sometimes when you get little weird errors like that, I tend to just go with the flow on it and try to just find a simple and easy workaround with what I know works. I'm going to auto group it one more time, and there we go. So you're saying you can pick it to stick to a corner? I'm saying that wherever you touch originally, that's where it's going to default. So if I want it to start here on this edge, and then I start drawing out, that is where it's going to start. If I come up to the picker and I hit continuous, and let's say I start here at that corner, and then I start drawing around, it's now going to try to conform to everything. So you can be a little bit more, you can have a little bit more control on where you start that material, but when you send it to the center by holding shift and having it send to the center, if symmetry is turned on, it will create 2 of the same. This is what I was explaining. And what that will do is you'll have double the mesh, and you'll just have to remove one. Hopefully I made that clear. Death Sacrament. Embrace the bug. Embrace it! Yeah, sometimes it happens. Just work with it. Things happen. Okay. Now let's go to Mesh Extrude. And what I'm going to do is with the lasso, I'm going to try this in one shot. Might be a little risky, but let's risk it for a biscuit, as I say. Seriously, with this lazy mouse, it makes things a lot simpler. Woo! That was pretty cool. That was pretty cool. That worked out. Now, I didn't hold shift on that, so let's redo that. I'm actually going to turn symmetry off, and I'm actually going to start here on this surface and come through and do this like such. There we go. Come on down. Swoop it around and let go. Oh, I didn't hold shift. Okay, don't. One more time. There we go. See? I've done it 3 times, and each time I feel like I'm getting just a little bit better. Okay, hold shift, send it to the middle. There we go. Now we can do is take the move brush, because everything is still masked out right now. And I can actually go ahead and just start. Let's back this up a little bit, because I need symmetry turned on for this part to keep it in the middle as much as possible. There we go. Awesome. So now we're getting that fin on there a little bit. Now, that fin is thin. So, don't mind me. So we're gonna thicken that up a little bit. So what we're gonna do is we're going to go to Subtool, Mass Unsplit. Come on down to just this area right here. And then I'm going to take the Z modeler brush, so BZM. What we're going to do, I'm actually going to turn on local. Kind of bring this up a little bit so we can kind of see what's going on. So it's a little bit thicker than last time. I'm going to go ahead and hover over an edge, hit insert multi-edge, which will give me a crease in the middle. Let's grab our mass lasso. Actually, no. Let's grab our just mass pen, because what we're going to do is just grab this middle crease right here. Hold Alt, and that will give you a reverse crease. And then we're just going to scale this part up. So we're kind of pushing out that middle bit right there. There we go. Come on over, hover over the edge, hit insert, go back to single edge, but we are on dual. And that's going to allow us to give us some supporting edges. Just gives a little bit more geometry too. There we go. So we're looking at something like that. Let's go ahead and hit mirror and weld. Awesome. Now we have some creasing that's on here already. So I kind of want to bevel that a little bit, have a nice controlled fall off. So I'm going to go to geometry. I'm going to go to creases, and right here on the bevel, should give me a little bit. Not giving me quite what I want because the topology is not as clean as I would like it. So let's ZBrush it first. Keep creases, keep groups. And then let's go ahead and ZBrush it. Let's try it out of 5. Because we always want, when you're working with subdivisions, you want to try to have good edge flow as best you can. Let's mask off this one and kind of lift it up a little bit. There we go. Now let's try that again. Go to crease. There we go. Kind of gives us a nice little fall off. There we go. Now we can start manipulating the shape a little bit. So let's squeeze it back in just a little bit. Let's go ahead and grab our move brush. Let's start bringing this closer. Actually, let's take our clay buildup. I'm going to turn backface mask on too, so we're not breaking. Backed up too much. Let's squeeze it in further, actually. Because I want the bones of the fin to be sticking out a little bit. We'll use clay buildup to kind of push these in a little bit. There we go. I do want to be careful and make sure that these don't get too thin, even right now, because when we go to 3D print them, we're going to want them thick enough to actually print. So that's something I'm keeping in mind right now as I come through here and kind of round these edges out. And relax smoothing too, just a little bit. There we go. And now we can start tapering this off. So let's hit BTD for Trim Dynamic, which is one of my favorite brushes. Start coming up and actually start shaping this fin a little bit more. And now with that nice edge flow, I can keep a lower subdivision and get the results that I want. There we go. And a lot of times too, it's just trying out something new and then seeing what results you get, and then just slowly work it up. Yeah, you were thinking that as well? Nice, nice. Yep, we're just trimming away. Would a taper deformer help out here? I mean, it could, but right now, I'm just wanting to sculpt in and see what kind of shapes I get. So while it could help out for immediate results, right now I'm actually still kind of shaping the fins and going for an organic look. So it's just more about just playing around. I take it more, while I'm not and have never been a traditional sculptor, one of the things I love about sculpting or digital sculpting was I watched a lot of traditional sculptors do things, and I pulled a lot of inspiration in my early years of trying to sculpt from them. So I tend to have habits where I just want to go in there and get my hands in there and just start sculpting away. I feel like you can add a lot of life to your character that way. So it's just kind of my personal approach. If that makes sense. But yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can come in here with a Z modeler brush. You can get some deformers and just start really like tapering it out. But yeah. I'm also being mindful of the thickness and just kind of seeing what kind of shapes that I get. What I will do though is these are still very thin. So I actually will go to deformation. And I'm actually going to inflate these a little bit. So that will give you a little bit more of an illusion that these are thinner than they actually are. Actually, let's go up just a little bit more. Cool, something like that. Now I'm going to go to the body, and I'm actually going to get clay buildup. And I'm actually going to start building up some of the areas around here to give it so that it's like the bones are coming out of the skin. So I'm just trying to keep in mind of all the details and stuff that would naturally be here. If something would be protruding out of its body, there would definitely be that kind of excess skin and hump there. So as I block out, I kind of think of those things and then look at my references for the examples of the creature that I'm trying to build and then go from there. There we go. Okay. Keep in mind too, like this whole time, I want to start detailing massively, but we want to avoid that at this moment in time. Getting into details would be really dangerous just for the sake of the model, because it's not going to, it's still not blocked out completely. I'm still kind of trying to find the creature a little bit, and if I get too far into details too quickly, that's gonna lead me to have some issues later, or just some fundamental issues with the model I may not like. They'll have to go back and fix. So you notice I keep zooming out and kind of taking a look at it, relax smoothing it. I love relax smooth. It's probably the best way. Instead of just hitting smooth, because that destroys, relax smooth is kind of just relaxes it. That makes sense. Kind of helps like smooth it out without really giving you too many smoothing issues. And I have it toned down to like 28, but it allows me to clean it up, see it kind of smooth, and still get to see the shapes form. Let's take the damn standard and let's actually start kind of carving in a little bit. Now I'm going to turn on preview AO at this point because I want to kind of start seeing how each subtool is interacting and get a sense of depth. And so I'm actually going to take the intensity, which is defaulted at 50, and I'm going to take that to about 30, which is still pretty strong, but it does kind of help me see from afar how this model is going to look. And then I get to kind of manipulate that a little bit more. So here I'm actually going to carve in a couple points here. Maybe underneath a little bit. I want to start getting the sense of how the flippers are going to connect to the body. So maybe actually let's start building it up. He would have some sort of like scapula or bone right here so that he can control that flipper. So let's get that kind of shape in there. And you see here how this is kind of colliding a bit. So let's take the move brush and let's actually kind of flare this up a little bit. Maybe give it some more bulk. So while I'm not going for realism 100%, I am going for something that's believable. So keeping in mind on what might be there with my own anatomy, and then kind of seeing if that makes sense. Because again, at the end of the day, even though he's fake, we got to make sure that he's at least somewhat grounded in reality. So here I'm actually going to take the inflate brush. Although it's spelled inflat, I think. So I'm going to take that brush right here and kind of bulk this area up a little bit. I'm going to take the pinch brush, so BPI. I'm actually going to slightly kind of pinch right here to kind of taper these little flippers just a little bit, just a smidget. There we go. Let's take the move brush and then let's kind of push this in a bit. This is also something to keep in mind too, how I actually want to slice this model up. So even though his flippers and fins are going to be moved and positioned, I'm actually thinking that creating something here that maybe his scales or something on his body would actually give me a little bit of freedom to then cut there, so that when we print it, it'll actually look like it's one piece, even though that's going to be where we key his flippers and stuff. So something to keep in mind too, that I'm just thinking in the back of my head. So while we don't want 3D printing to completely control our decisions, we just want to keep them in mind, since we know that that's the end game of our project. And as you can see here, I'm just going back and forth between the move brush and the clay buildup and the pinch brush, just to kind of get some sort of shape. Okay. Okay. Now let's kind of work on his tail a little bit, so we can get something working for us. Let's go ahead and save it. I'm actually going to save it as another sub tool, so that way I have something to go back on. There we go. So I'm thinking, looking at all my reference, the sea creature is shown with either some sort of like fin-like tail that's like really almost like a feathery kind of motion, or just like straight up like a whale's fin almost. So I'm thinking about maybe going more of like an octopus type shape, where it's gonna spiral out, and maybe give him some spikes at the end, and then maybe give him like a little bit of some flippers. So let's play with that idea a little bit. It's the worst that happens, we don't like it. So let's go here and let's start blowing this up a little bit. I gotcha, I get it. Trying to keep that organic feel versus more mechanical with the former. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. You know, and it's all in whatever you're trying to... It's all about whatever you're trying to achieve at the end of the day. You know, for me, I try to keep things more organic, but if I'm doing hard surface, I'll tell you right now, I will rely very heavily on deformers and ZModeler to get it done. Just because there's so much control there. But with organic, yeah, I try to keep it a little bit more loose and natural if possible. At the end of the day, the best thing to do is to just kind of like try it if you like what you got going, perfect. If not, then it's okay to abandon, you know. But yeah, that's kind of my approach to things. Okay. Maybe almost like a dinosaur feel, you know? Maybe that's what I'm going to be doing. So let's kind of smooth that down a little bit. Okay. So I kind of want like some, maybe like some sort of like flippers or like, as we have this fin up on top here, I think I want something similar on the sides and the back that he can use as a weapon, but also to guide him a little bit. So we're going to come here to the balloon mesh. And actually, no, we're going to go with mesh extrude. And I'm going to kind of just create a shape that I think would be really cool and easy to work with. Okay, but I can't do it with subdivisions, so let's pick something that doesn't have subdivisions, like these spikes here, and try it again. Hello, Pedro. Okay, so let's try it again. Let's hit a point, come here. There we go. Maybe something like that. And let's kind of rotate this a little bit. Gives us a little bit of something. So we may rethink some of these scales too. Maybe we end the scales a little bit more here. Yeah, let's do that. Ooh, that's a great idea, I think. Okay. Let's try this. Let's grab these scales. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to, let's rename these Bailey scales. And I'm going to duplicate it, Shift Control D to duplicate any subtool and any folder. Be careful with that. I'm going to hide that one. So I'm going to try my idea here, because if I don't like it, then I have a backup. And what I'm going to do is actually grab this right here. Control Shift A to bring back a partial one, and then delete hidden. Oh yeah, okay, cool. Starting to look like some Final Fantasy creature. Alright, and what we're going to do now is we're actually going to come in here. And I'm actually going to duplicate this. So I'm going to go ahead, hold Control, duplicate this out. Kind of rotate this around 180 degrees. Maybe shrink it and bring this up a little bit. There we go. I grab this guy right here. Let's actually grab this section here. So let's grab our select lasso. And because we have pretty clean topology, we can actually come in here and select the polygons that we want to keep and have a nice clean edge. Go ahead and delete hidden. And what I'm going to do is actually isolate this on its own. So I'm going to go to split and split hidden. So we have this guy. And then I'm actually going to go ahead and close holes. Bring this down a little bit. I have to turn symmetry on. Make sure to turn symmetry on. I'm gonna grab this section right here. Kind of bring that down a little bit. Okay. So something like that. So you can always just repurpose certain things that you like about your model. Let's go ahead and grab, let's just grab one. Let's grab this one right here. Control drag, bring that over. Turn off symmetry for a second, turn that around. About 180 degrees, rotate that, and let's now manipulate that as we need it. And if it's ever off center like this, just hit the home button. That will send it to the very center, and then you can just grab it again. There we go. You can also come here, hit mirror and weld, which will send a lot of things and correct that shape. There we go. Drag that down. Control drag. And again, we're still getting that block out, but we're starting to get it quickly. Scale that down. There we go. All right. So now we have this kind of weird thing blocked out, and we're at least starting to see the shapes that we want, which is really cool. But we're still going to need a good amount of work. From here, we're going to go ahead and hit auto groups. So let's go to polygroups. We're going to hit auto groups because we have the same polygroup for a lot of this same type of thing. Because when you control, drag, copy, it copies the whole thing as is. So let's go ahead and hit auto groups. And then we're going to hit mirror and weld. So that way our symmetry has the same polygroups. I like to keep them that way. So that's modified topology and mirror and weld. Now we have these flippers here, and we want to kind of shape these a little bit. So let's drag these, let's kind of mask them. Hit our gizmo, hit Y, and then we're going to go ahead and actually do that bend shape that I love so much. Hit R, and just kind of rotate this around a little bit. There we go. Now if we want, we can come here, let's go to Subtool, Split on Mast. So we have this shape here. And kind of like I was saying with the t-shirt earlier, what we can do is let's actually work with a single-sided geometry, get what we want, and then add some thickness. So we're actually going to go to polygroups and hit group by normals. And it's only giving us a little bit of what we want here. So we're actually going to drop group by normals to, let's say, 20. And now we'll get different polygroups like this. Mirror and weld it, and we'll tap one side. Hey, thanks so much, Skyhawk. Jim Ballin! I love that little emote. So now we have different polygroups, and I only need the one side. So we're going to go ahead and delete hidden. And now what I'm going to do is go to deformation, polish by features, which will kind of clean that up a little bit. And then we're going to go ahead and geometry, Z remesher, and we're going to keep creases. So you can see this is a very repetitive process that I use when I'm blocking out. Do I know how to get rid of the script window in the bottom tray? The window with the R. Do I know how to get rid of the script window? I do not. Moonshine. One second. Hit H, that opens it up. Hit Tab, that kind of opens up everything. I'm not sure exactly what you mean by script window. I don't know if there's a preference. So I would say, no, I don't know how to do that part. Sorry. Definitely reach out. You can ask Pixologic on YouTube, and you might be able to find that pretty quickly. It might be under the preferences, but again, I don't know right off the top of my head. I know if you hit tab, that opens and closes some of your UI ports. H will hide some, but yeah, sorry. But definitely reach out. You can always reach out to Pixologic, Twitter, or to their support and ask. Also, the Ask ZBrush on YouTube sometimes will pull that up a lot too. Okay, so now we have something, and it's kind of cruddy. I don't really like that. So let's hit same and ZRemesh again. Sometimes if you ZRemesh the same, you can get similar results. I don't like that. Let's hit 5. And keep groups. Let's try to adapt on. Let's see what we get. Make sure symmetry is turned on. And now that's not really working the way I want it to. Okay, let's go a little lower. Let's try 2. Try 1. What I'm really looking for is when you get something that's coming to a point, sometimes this gets a little problematic, so you'll always get some sort of pull happening here. So sometimes you'll have to kind of work with that a bit. That might be a little bit better. It's a little lower. I want to keep it as low as possible. Now from here, I'm going to turn on dynamic, and I'm actually going to use dynamic thickness to kind of see the shape that I want without actually applying it. So I'm going to go to geometry, dynamic subdivision, I'm going to start applying the thickness, and this will give me a sense of what I want. That's a little too thick, so let's try 0.035. There we go. That's a little bit. There we go, yeah. So now we get something that's kind of like this. Let's actually drop this down. Now I'm just kind of seeing some of the things that stand out. Because again, we talked about having good flow. And right now, this is kind of looking a little funky. So I'm going to bring this up a little bit. There is a thin bar to double click that will close the drawer. Okay, cool. Oh, you mean this bar. Sorry, I think I misunderstood you. Was this the bar you're referring to? Double-clicking this? I think I misunderstood that. Thanks, Ryan. If your UI ever gets wonky, you can actually go here and hit Restore UI. And that will always put you back. And if you have a custom UI like what I do, Preferences, Config, Restore, Custom UI, that'll help too. My bar got a little weird. Okay, let's go ahead and save it. Alright guys, we got about another hour. I'm going to about 8, so hopefully you guys are enjoying it. Alright, let's work his head a little bit more now. We're going to want to play with some of these horns a little bit. I'm thinking, let's hit F real quick when you lose your character like that. Hit Y on the keyboard to change it from transpose to gizmo. There we go. And now I'm going to go ahead and maybe control drag a little bit more. See if that's kind of what I want to do here. I think it is. I think I want to have a couple horns coming this way. Okay. I think that's what I would like to do, so I'm actually going to back this up. I'm actually going to get the Extrude profile brush. It's one of the new features, a really awesome brush. Comes with a bunch of alphas that you can utilize. Alphas made geometry, which is fun. I'm actually going to just grab the simple circle, and if we open this side panel up and grab our stroke and drag this over here, open up the curve, you can see how the fall off is happening here, and it is set right where we want it to be, so I can actually kind of drag out some horns. Something like that. I can put these right where I want them. And I'm going to want him to have some side horns here. So let's redraw these. Say right about here. And it's a little bit big, so we can actually lower our brush size and then tap right there again just to get a different one. Tap on our object. We can actually now kind of push these here. Yeah, that bottom drawer is where the script window is. I don't know if you can get rid of it completely. Yeah, I'm not sure either. That's why, yeah, I would just suggest reaching out to Pixo themselves, and they would be able to answer that better. I will try to find the answer so that way I can know it for the next time as well. But if anybody does know, feel free to let me know. I haven't messed a lot with any of the script stuff. Okay. Yeah, this is looking pretty cool. Okay. Okay, yeah. I'm digging that. That's pretty fun. Again, we're just kind of creating something on the fly, so... And we're definitely going to want to start posing him and getting him ready. But we're still just kind of trying to find his shape, too, a little bit. Let me play with one other idea that I had. And that was for his tail. So let's grab the fin one more time. And I'm actually going to tap that on the side here. Let's actually go back and grab the mesh balloon. Again, just a really cool brush to start getting stuff. Boop. I'm going to go ahead and kind of just... You know what? Let's go up to picker and let's hold once. I had changed that. I think I want something kind of flowy, so... Maybe something like that. Hello! Do I use a drawing tablet, Mighty? Yes, I do. I have an XP Pen Artist Pro, the 15.6, I think it is. It's a screen tablet. It's really good. I like it. It's pretty affordable, too. Okay. You know what? Let's see here. Let's try it from the side. Looking for just kind of like this. You know what? I don't like any of the shapes I'm coming up with, so you know what? That's fine. Let's leave that there. Grab our clay buildup. I'm actually going to just kind of start sculpting right here. Okay, if you guys don't know, here's what's really cool. So, and it's pretty awesome about this in the update. Before, when you used to start dragging and you would hold shift and draw a straight line, it would actually come up short when you let go shift, but now it comes straight to the point. So if you want to try to get really cool straight lines on weird curvy shapes like this, start drawing, and it works with pretty much anything, with any brush. start your clay buildup, hold shift, draw a straight line right to where you want it, let go, and now you can see I get a nice even stroke all the way around. And that was a really cool update. I could draw a straight line. Yep. I have a very hard time drawing straight lines. Usually I have to try to like find the right pattern, but now with that, before you would draw shift and it would end just kind of shy, but now it ends right where you want it to, which is very cool. So if you guys didn't know about that one, check that one out. Because I use that a lot. There we go. Cool. This way we can get a little bit of detail right here, right on top, so that this part makes sense. Kind of clean this up a little bit, kind of smooth that down. There we go. Are there any tricks to avoid lumpy shapes? What I would recommend to avoid lumpy shapes is kind of what I have going here, where have a model with subdivisions, pardon me, and keep it as low as possible, and then use relax smooth, which is hold shift to start smoothing, and then as you're smoothing, let go of shift, but keep smoothing, and that will actually relax the geometry and kind of even out some of those bumps. I do it all the time. It's a lot of fun. Awesome, thank you for answering. I'm new to the field of 3D modeling and would like to learn more, so thank you for the live stream. Absolutely, Mighty. I'm super glad to help. When you're trying to block out with a move. Oh, when you're trying to block out with a move? I mean, when you're trying to block out, I would say don't really worry too much about how lumpy your shapes are. When I'm blocking out, I don't really pay attention too much to how clean the topology is. I pay attention to the silhouette and see if it's something that I like. Once I have a decent silhouette, then I start fixing. That's when I start getting into subdivisions, and then that's how you can control a lot of the lumpiness that your model might get. The lower the subdivision, the more control you have on getting those lumps out. The higher the subdivision, the harder. So try to find the shapes that you're looking for first, whether it be in Dynamesh, Subdivision, Sculptris Pro, whatever method works for you. Then ZRemesh it to get into subdivisions and smooth it out before you start stepping up, and that should help you stay away from the lumpiness. You could also try things, like I said, with like Relax Smooth, maybe Move Topology is a brush that might help you up there too. A lot of different little ways to do things that can kind of help you get the results you want. Just try to keep your topology as low as possible so that you can avoid those lumpiness when it happens. But yeah, not a problem. This looks pretty complex. Will this be able to be printed as one piece? Probably not as one piece, no, although that depends on how we actually want to design the print. I'm going to start kind of creating the base here in a second while we still have some time, and kind of give you an idea of what I'm thinking about on the pose. And what I'm thinking is it's going to be multiple pieces. Besides two, based on the size alone, I'm thinking about 6 to 9 inches for a pretty decent size statue. So you'll want to break that up. So most likely not, but maybe I'll do a version that is, maybe it's like coiled around something. I don't know, we could play with some ideas. I like it. What are your thoughts on Autodesk Mudbox? This is a Pixo stream, Team Weird. If you want my thoughts on it, you hit me up on my private stream, and I'll gladly talk about it there. But yeah, I have no opinion here about it. No problem. It depends largely on the printer type, how it is oriented. Yeah, exactly. It really can depend on the printer type too, and depends on your print process. FDM, resin, all that stuff. The process can dictate how you want to approach something. And that's what we kind of just play, play with the more we get into it. Here, I'm thinking resin, so it's already going to need supports when we print it. So it's just really a matter of it's just really going to be a matter of how that makes sense. And like I said, we'll get to that a little bit more once we start actually shaping it. Okay, from here, because we have an underbelly, I'm actually going to do that same trick with the clay buildup. So I'm going to, right in the middle, hold shift. I'm going to drag and get that line going there. And kind of start building up that belly a little bit. Let's actually back it up. Let's do it one more time because hold shift right there. I'm going to hit 1 on the keyboard, which will actually duplicate that stroke. And now I can work with this. In future streams, will you also cover how to create articulated joints for action figures? I do want to cover some articulated joints for action figures for 3D printing, but first I have a few cutters that I'm actually working out. So that is plans for the future, yes. If you guys would like to see how to start, with articulation and some of the stuff that I know, just note that articulation is usually a custom thing. So if you're ever to work with a studio and they say, here's a figure, I want you to cut it, a lot of times you're going to have to troubleshoot how it gets articulated. So but I can give you some of the pointers and stuff that I do with articulation. I mainly make articulation for 3D printing, not for manufacturing as of yet, but 3D printing is fun too. You're using ZBrush. Yay! I love using ZBrush. All right, so now we have this kind of coming up here. And so what we did for his back, we're actually going to do it for his tail. So keeping consistency as much as possible with the similar shapes. There we go. Okay. Now what I'm thinking about doing is actually taking the /3 brush, turning off RGB, maybe noting this down a little bit. And I'm going to start kind of creating a cut that's going to separate his softer tissue from his harder tissue. Because he has scales on the bottom that's kind of like armor, I'm thinking that his belly would be a lot softer than his back would be. So I'm actually going to start making some lines that are going to indicate the separation. So we're going to turn on Lazy Mouse, which you can find under Stroke, Lazy Mouse, and we're actually going to start cutting a little bit of this. This will be a good way to kind of create that separation of the character. And then we can actually flail out some magic here. So maybe this fin will be softer than his other one. Let's go right there. Do I have videos of articulation on my personal channel? Not at this time, no, but I plan on having some in the future. I know articulation is really like, people are thirsty for it because there's not a whole lot of information out there. Once I get things that are working and consistent, that's when I'll definitely share my findings with you guys so you guys can have something to do. And I do it all in ZBrush, so you'll be able to follow along with that stuff once I get it a little bit more consistent and worked out. I have a question for you. How do you go about fixing some rough details on a mesh? One example would be around eyelids, where I've done some push and pulling. Oh, gotcha. That's a great question. So let's get into that one. Let me save this real quick. Okay, so for rough details on a mesh, the first thing I would recommend that you do is actually check out your topology. A lot of times, especially if we're doing subdivision, we really want to make sure that the topology and that the edge flow is working for us. Now, there's a way around that if it's not. If you have a Dynamesh and you want to create quick topology that will be user-friendly for the modeling process, or you want to correct your subdivision that is kind of poor topology, for example, it's not really working for you 100%, what we can do is polygroup it. And I love this trick. I do it all the time. And so what I'm going to do is, let's say we have topology that's just not really working out for us, okay? So I'm going to actually go ahead and subdivide this a few times. And let's say that this is kind of wonky. We're just fighting it and it's not working for us. What we're going to do is actually duplicate it, so if we make a mistake, we can go back to our original. And I'm actually going to Dynamesh it to give you a sense of this. So I'm going to go to Plugin, and I'm going to go to Dynamesh Utility. It's a free plugin, and I'm going to Dynamesh this at like 0.5 mil. There we go. Okay. So in order to correct topology or get quick topology that will be useful for you, what you could do is, using the paintbrush, so B, E, and A, we're going to go ahead and take a light color, like white, and we're going to go ahead and fill that color so that we have white. And now we're going to switch, and we're actually going to use black. And what we're going to do is actually draw on our model where we want that edge, where we want the edges or the edge flow to occur. So for eyes, for example, what we're going to want, and let's just take a nice, make sure it's at 100% paint, even take the lazy mouse a little bit. We're actually going to draw how we want that edge flow to go. So we're going to come up here. And now the trick to this is to make sure that your lines are nice and solid. And we're just going to go ahead and draw around the eye. And I'm going to do it again on the inside, drawing around. And I don't want this colliding that well, so it can actually come down a little bit lower like this, coming up to about here. So we have this right there. And now, let's say I want the nose broken up. So I'll grab this. Maybe I want the back of his head broken up too. So maybe I'll come here like this. Come on up this way. And so you're just drawing out the shapes that you want. Maybe I want his snout. Like maybe he has a nostril right here. So I'm going to drag this here like this. So we're just creating some pretty basic shapes. So this is all to kind of correct our topology. And then let's come on here, just drag up. Okay. And you can get as crazy detailed with this as you want, or you can keep it as simple as you want. It is really up to you. I mean, some of this isn't even making sense, so we'll just stop it right there. But let's say we have our lines drawn where we want, specifically around the eyes. We can even leave it just to this right here and let ZBrush kind of figure out the rest. From here, what we're going to do is we're going to plug, let's take our Z plugin, grab this little icon, drag it on over here to the side. And what we're really looking for, we turn on our poly frame. So right here on the corner, we're hitting Shift F. We can see that we have now the poly paint, and it's all just one poly group. We're going to go to polygroup it, and there's this option right here called polygroup it from paint. We're going to go ahead and actually click that. And what this is going to do is actually create separate polygroups from our paint strokes that we did. As long as the paint is intersecting, it's going to see that as separate options, and then we're going to go ahead and it will create a polygroup for that section. Now, what I recommend doing next is kind of cleaning this up. If we zoom in a little bit, you can see how kind of jaggy that is. It's really just like stair-stepping. What you want to do is open up your light box, go to your brushes, go to smooth, which is over here, And then there's smooth groups. Hold shift and double tap that. And now what we can do is we can actually hold smooth and we can smooth this whole thing out. And this will smooth all of these edges as much as you would like. You can even go to deformation and hit smooth polish by groups. So you can go to deformation and polish by groups. And if you watch it, it's going to try its best to kind of smooth that all out. Now that we have this, what we can do is we can go to geometry, we can go to crease and crease by polygroups. Now we can go to ZRemesh, keep groups, keep creases, which is important. And now what ZBrush is going to do when we hit ZRemesher, it's going to ZRemesh based on the polygroups, and it's going to try to wrap the edge flow around. And it's going to figure out the best possible way to give you good geometry so that you're not fighting the topology as you're trying to go up in subdivisions to get really good details. And now you can see here, if we switch color, our edge flow is flowing around the eye, which is how we're going to want that. So that way when we step up, we actually get some pretty good clean lines. And then from here, you can go to crease, uncrease all. So when we step up, we actually get some nice topology and we're not fighting it. So that's how I would go ahead and fix that if you're struggling to have details as you're stepping up in the higher. And it would be a lot better than going and using, it's a lot better process than just trying to ZRemesh it, because ZRemesher will do its best to try to figure it all out. Where polygroup it, you can control how you want those edge flows to go, and you can get a lot better results. Now, a quick side note is this is not by any means animation friendly. So if you're trying to get some really clean topology for animation, then manually retopologize your high res as much as possible. So hopefully that answered that question for you, but that's how I would go about it, because for me, fixing topology, trying to fight it and stepping up, it's just going to cause you problems. So always step down, duplicate it, and then if you want, you can even, at this point, project. So now that you have your clean mesh, if you just have your original mesh and then your now clean topology mesh, you can actually go to project, hit project all, and it will go ahead and project your details back onto your clean topology, and now you can go back in and start messing with it. Not a problem. Hey Ian, first time user, what do you recommend for 3D printer? If you're a 3D printer, that's always check your budget, I guess I would say. And I mean, I would love to go more in depth with it. If you want to hit up my own personal channels, I can get into a bigger conversation with that, but El Gumars is a great one. Highly recommend. Dang, we still going. Had to take off for a bit, been replacing. No problems, man. Yeah, we're going till 8, guys. What kind of tablet do I use? I use the XP Pen Artist Pro. It's a screen tablet. It's a really good, affordable tablet. And actually, now that I have this decent topology, I'm thinking about keeping it. This isn't so bad. You can see I kind of had some pretty decent edge flow, but I definitely have some poles, so this is definitely one way to go about it. Let's take that one, let's turn that one off. Polish by groups, best slider, it really is, absolutely. Yeah, the stuff you learn from these streams. First I learned you could draw a straight line, now there's more smooth brushes. There are more smooth brushes. Guys, I'm gonna tell you right now, hit that comma key on your keyboard, go into brush, and there are so many brushes in ZBrush that are hidden from your main brush. I mean, there's like 50 brushes in this main one, and then there are like 50 more. So definitely, yeah. Yep. All right. So where we are now. Okay, so let's actually, you know what? I'm going to start kind of finalizing his face a little bit. I'm thinking about giving him more of a chomper. This is more of kind of a weird dragon, so let's push him. I want him to be like kind of grotesque a little bit. So let's actually take this one that I did. Let's delete that one real quick. Let's save this out. I'm thinking more of like a squared snout or something. And so now, bloop. I mean, you know, yeah. There we go. Let's just go for broke here. Let's get him fierce. Yeah. I'm actually going to step down in subdivision a little bit. So I actually have pretty high subdivisions for this one. So let's drop it down to subdivision 2. Delete higher. Actually, let's delete lower too, just so we can turn on dynamic. But we can still have control of pretty high subdivision. Yeah, there we go. It's okay to change your mind sometimes. Let's turn that body off. That body off. Where are you? Boop. Insert screaming cat meme here. All right. Let's turn off the lower jaw. Let's turn off the... Let's just turn everything off. Okay. At the end of the day... Let's grab that guy. Perfect. Okay. Where's the upper gums? Right there. Let's organize this a bit. Upper gums. Okay. So as you can see here, I'm like getting to the point where I'm like wanting to kind of have a mix between some sort of like crocodile to maybe some sort of like shark almost. May actually give him that type of teeth too. I feel like these round teeth just aren't doing it. Let's smooth that out a bit. Hey Sculpts, how's it going? Looking cool. Thanks MJ Sculpts. It's going pretty good. How are you doing? Thanks for stopping by. Hopefully life is going pretty well. Man, the time flies, guys. Alright. So again, I'm actually pulling inspiration from crocodiles on this. And their mouths are like really funky. So let's shape these gums to be that funky, and then we'll adjust his snout a little bit more. There we go. Let's sew this out real quick. Let's take the trim dynamic. I had this temporary gum kind of sculpted in, and it's clearly just not working anymore, so I got to get rid of it and then shape around the other ones. So again, I like to have a lot of temporary subtools or features in my subtools that keep my thought process, but whatever works for you guys, for sure. Going from a yep, working through some pose concepts for a sculpt. Nice, heck yeah. Okay, let's take the clay buildup. I'm actually gonna start kind of giving kind of that roof of a mouth feel to it. There we go. Okay, trim dynamics of BTD again. And now these teeth are kind of also in the way a little bit. So because we widen his mouth, we're going to have to go ahead and widen his teeth. So let's go ahead and hit local sim, I think it is. Nope. All right, let's go ahead and keep it all in the same group. Why is it doing that there? Why are you doing that? Okay, let's hit auto groups. Mirror and weld. There we go. Let's send this home. And weld it. There we go. Kind of rotate these around. We'll need to adjust these as we go through. That's not a dragon. This is a dragon. Exactly. This is a dragon. All right. What's cool about this creature is like, yeah, I know we kind of went from like this really like big belly like thing to like something a little bit more creepy, and I like it. There we go. Okay, let's go ahead and grab this one right here. We're actually gonna make that a lot bigger. So if you have the gizmo out and you hold Control Shift and tap, actually select that polygroup. And even if you're selected on something else, just go ahead and tap that right there. I like to hold Alt and kind of reset the gizmo each time I touch it though. Grab that right there. There we go. I'll just kind of help out a little bit. If you guys have ever looked at crocodile teeth, they are definitely weird and not consistent, not symmetrical in any way, shape, or form. So it's kind of the vibe we're going to go for. They are chompers for sure. Boop. That's that one right there. Hold Alt. I think we're going to go with like a big fang here. Get him a little bit. Almost like he's able to clamp down on that. There we go. The question is, would you ever have a croc for a gymnast? That's a great question. I just don't know. One would hope not, right? All right, let's go ahead and grab that right there. Okay, we're gonna scale that up. Let's actually turn local sim on so when we scale, we can scale to the sub tool that's selected. Move that there. Just make sure to turn that off because that can cause some issues, believe you me. Okay, we're actually gonna... Okay, the real question here is, do front teeth like fangs like this actually make sense? And the answer is no, I don't think so. So let's actually make these front ones kind of small. And then we're gonna actually kind of mimic the bottom of his mouth too. Now I'm thinking if his mouth should be opened or closed, you know, that's really a good question to answer. So, and this is why I keep the top of him separate. So we can definitely kind of play with this, and that's what we're gonna do right now. You should look at duck goose teeth. Straight nightmare fuel. And the third row teeth on the tongue. What the heck? Oh my goodness. Only if they have really amazing teeth. I don't speak Spanish, but let me see if I can Google Translate that real quick. I apologize. Let me see if I can copy that. Let me see if I can Google Translate that real fast. I would try not to miss any questions as much as I can. How long have you been since you made your first... Oh, how long has it been since I made my first sculpture? Could we see your first works? My first sculpture I made about 4, going on 5 years ago. And I don't have it on this local drive, but it is just a blob of a fish. It is ugly. So, in fact, okay, you know what? Like, I definitely have no problems trying to see if I can find it real quick. If you guys want to see that, I'll definitely show it to you. It's, let me save it real quick. I have this, like, alien fish thing. I'm not even joking, guys. It's ugly. Like, really ugly. How long did you search for sculpture? Okay, cool. Thanks for the translation, by the way. I appreciate that. I went to Google Translate too. Okay, let me see if I can find it real quick. If I can't find it, then I'll try to bring it up for next time. It's ugly. Like, I did it in ZBrush. It's really, really ugly. Let me see if I can find it real quick. It's called Alien Fish. You guys are gonna laugh. Like, you're gonna laugh at me. I'm telling you right now. Like, no joke. I don't even know if I have it. Let's see. Fangs probably not, but you can combine some of the snapping turtle traits. Yeah, that's where they have a strong bite force, no fangs. Yeah, exactly. They have strong jaws, the bony protrusions. Exactly. Yeah, and see, that's the thing. Keeping that anatomy is like super, super useful. I don't think I have it, but it is really, really ugly. It might be a project, so hold on. I'm telling you, you guys are gonna laugh though, but I don't mind sharing it. Let me go to File. Let me go to File, Open. Say no. I already saved it. It's totally fine. Because I think back in the day, I saved everything as projects. When I first started, Alien Fish, and now I save everything as not project. Okay, I think this is it. If it's super ugly, then this is it. Let me see what it pops up as. Yep, here it is. Okay, don't laugh at me. This is the very first thing I created in ZBrush about 4 years ago. See, red wax too, by the way. So, you know, just like I'm saying, just this is like ugly. Ugly, ugly, ugly. Not even kidding you. This is the very first thing I have. So trust me when I say, you guys, like, if I can do it, you guys can do it. I know that's the thing people say a lot, but seriously, like, this is the fish that is super ugly. This is it. All right, I've embarrassed myself enough. Let's go back. Let's go back. Let's go back. It's even in red wax, guys. Like, how bad is that it's in red wax? All right, let's go to document and let's actually drop that range. Bloop. There we go. So yeah. Okay, so let's do something kind of fun. Let's actually grab this one right here and send this to the center. Now I'm going to go ahead and select the pizza box. And I'm going to select just... Let's see, I don't want any of this. Or this. Or this even. I literally just want to see if I can correct this thing. Okay, so I had to look up the duct tape. That's nuts. Yeah. Oh, I was thinking the other one. No. That one was much later. Wow, big eyes, right? You know, so... But it's okay. Like, we all start somewhere, you know what I mean? This almost looks like a Pokemon right now. Okay. Let's actually play with this shape a little bit. Now that his mouth is kind of closed. Let's go to his teeth real quick. Let's kind of open this up. We'll have to bring the gums out a little bit. Now we can kind of mess around with this a little bit. Which is the fish with it? Which is the fish with the transparent head? Hold on. Are you thinking jellyfish? I don't know. Hey, Thalden, how you doing? Welcome in, welcome in. Okay, let's actually kind of shape this. So I'm going to want his teeth on the outside of his head. And maybe... So again, we're still really playing with the character as a whole. like I said, I'm probably gonna end up continuing this guy on my own other stream, so you guys will want to follow the progress there. And if so, go ahead and check out my socials before I take off. What we got, another 15 minutes? So that's where you can find me. Made it so fast, 4 years, and you're one of the best streamers in Pixel. Oh, thanks, man. I really appreciate that, Joe. No barrel fish. Googled it when you have the time. It's a very weird fish. Okay, barrel fish. I will Google that. No problem. Okay. Now, what we really want to pay attention to here is... I really want to pay attention to the transition between his neck and his jaw. Really want him to be super, you know, super, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, I really want him to, I guess, be jowly a little bit. So let's hide the scale here. So really just want to pay attention to where this one in particular is. So let's actually hide this one right here. There we go. Yeah, perfect. And let's delete hidden. And then let's get that shape going. Good imagination. It's a funny fish. Yeah. Absolutely. Also, the goose teeth are absolutely weird. Okay, I'm gonna have to look up this. I'm gonna have to look up goose and duck teeth. That's, I guess, that's my homework. And I'm really excited and terrified. The progress too faster. Thanks for answering. Not a problem. Okay, so we're gonna bring this down a little bit. Now here, this is where I'm actually going to take the clay buildup. So BCB for clay buildup. And we're just going to start adding some material here. And again, this is our own little creation, so kind of just going where the shapes are, seeing what happens. But I definitely want there to be power in his bite. Even if his mouth stays closed, we want to make sure that he looks super powerful. So he would have these really crazy muscles right here that would allow him to clamp down. That's the only reason why he would survive. The only way he would survive. And then, of course, too, just like in people, if you look at your jawbone, there's like, you know, that kind of protrudes a little bit. So what we want to do is actually get something like that bone kicking in. Just kind of want the sense of a skeletal structure here. That's also going to help just kind of bring, again, a little bit of realism to it. How did you manage to get there in only 4 years? Did you practice a lot? I did, actually. I practiced... Okay, so before the pandemic, I actually practiced every single day. I just fell in love with it, you know? And so I just really started practicing. And then I started taking some local classes that was teaching ZBrush. And I just really wanted to learn it. So I studied anatomy. I studied traditional sculpting on YouTube. I watched it all the time. And then I started checking out Pixo streams, videos on YouTube. I just dove in. Really just fell in love with the ability to create something. Now, I will say that I do have a 2D background, but I put that down for years. I didn't really do anything for about 5-6 years with my 2D art. But it gave me the sense of how to approach it. And so my biggest advice is if you're really just trying to learn something like ZBrush, just, you know, practice a lot. Don't be afraid to fail. Just get in there and try it and then ask a ton of questions. There's no such thing as a bad question, except for the question you don't ask. So ask all your questions. But yeah, just lots of practice. You know, that whole like 10,000 hours. But then also, too, don't be afraid, like, when you're ready for, you know, somebody to come in and kind of critique you, you know, don't be afraid to, you know, ask for help or even take a class. Some of you know I'm a student of Shane Olson, really great guy, and I love his course. And so It was one of those things where when I was ready to push it to the next level, I sought out guidance, and you know, that could be a scary thing too, but if, I was hungry and eager to learn. And then when the pandemic happened, I was transitioning to freelance. So I just kept pushing. So hopefully that answers your question. Hey! Let me put it like this. If you really want to do something, you will learn it in time. Someone faster, someone slower, but eventually you'll just do what you love. And you will improve over time by nature. Yep, absolutely. Just keep practicing. Keep pushing yourself. Keep learning. I would say I'm the guy who doesn't ever want to stop learning. So definitely just seek out knowledge where you can, yeah. That's a great way to put it. And I ramble a lot too, guys. Always hungry. Always. Okay. So space feels weird to me, and that's because he doesn't have a nostril. Right? We didn't give him a nose yet. So I'm going to take the trim dynamic and turn that texture off for a second. I'm going to start kind of carving in where his nose would be. And let's actually apply that. Now I'm going to pick a material, a basic material, so I can see a little bit more in depth. And also preview AO, hit that occlusion a little bit. And now I'm going to just start carved in a spot, take the clay buildup, and kind of like just create a little bit of a nose base here. So yeah, there you go. Okay, yeah, I'm still torn on whether his mouth will be open or closed. So, you know, you should practice. I know you should practice daily, but is it weird to be intimidated by that? Sounds a bit pathetic, but I feel daunted and anxious to practice. Maybe because it's like, what am I practicing? Am what I am practicing enough? That's a great question. That's a great it's a great way to put it too, because the answer is you're always going to feel like you're not doing enough, but there's a time where you kind of want to try to give yourself a break too. Even today, I try to practice every day, but some days I'm just tired and I don't want to. So there are days I don't pick it up. But what I would say is, even if you're not sculpting, even if you're not in ZBrush, even if you're not practicing the thing that you want to practice, the thing that you could do is look up a video or watch some of your favorite things and let inspiration hit you. But I definitely get it. Yeah, you could definitely feel like you're not doing enough, but trust me when I say, you know, I'm inspired by things all the time. TV shows, video games, random items in my house. But if I'm not sculpting, I'm always kind of just, I would say, just kind of allow inspiration to hit you. But don't be embarrassed or ashamed or intimidated by what it is you're doing. Kind of try to create a goal. So for example, I do character sculpting for 3D printing. I make toys and props and stuff like that. So what I end up doing is I just kind of create a goal in what I want to achieve. So if you want to achieve characters better, then when you're not sculpting, maybe look up anatomy, maybe look up, you know, what type of characters inspire you. Don't be afraid to just go down a rabbit hole of research and then try something new. You know, if you're feeling overwhelmed, break out of that comfort zone by trying something new. It's not an easy thing. It's not black and white. It's a very gray area. But the only thing I could say is really just try to stay motivated, try to stay encouraged by new experiences. In other words, I have peers that say I practice 10 hours a day, and I think, wow, I'm not doing enough. I didn't do that. I didn't do 8 to 10 hours a day. I made sure I got an hour or two a day. Yeah. Don't. Everybody's life is different. Practice when you can, and make sure that you use that time wisely. That's what I would say. Yeah. Quick comparison is the quickest way to feel bad about yourself. Yeah, don't, you know, trust me. I feel inspired by some of the great artists out there, but I definitely don't try to compare myself to those artists. Art's a journey, and it's a life journey. So try to enjoy the journey and enjoy where you are. Because even though you might be here, and I'm up here, right, just as an example, well, I was here at one point, and it just took me time to get there. And you'll get there too. Raid! Hey, thanks for the raid. I will be going in the next few minutes, so thank you so much for the raid. Who raided? I did not get the notification. Hey, hello! Thank you. Welcome in, raiders. Welcome in. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, we're almost getting ready to pose him, which we'll get to on our next stream. I'm going to be detailing him a little bit more off stream. Hello, hello. Welcome in, guys. Well, we joined the speech. Well, hopefully it was a positive one for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Yeah. Stay vigilant. Keep working. You'll get there. Yeah. I need to head out. All right, well, thank you so much for the raid. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining. We're actually wrapping it up, guys. Is there any other last-minute questions you guys have about ZBrush before I take off? I got 5 minutes. I could take a question or two. Let's see. It's nice to see your art. Thank you so much, my cake day. Thank you so much. Looks like a lot of distance between the back and the vertebrae there. Oh yeah, we're still blocking and having fun with it. Did you scan this first? No. Wish, right? I found the creature and then scanned him. That would have been fun. I'm actually gonna need to correct the back of his head here in a minute. How do you make it look so sad? Lots of time and practice. Layers. I will tell you, the secret to making anything look good is just keep layering it. And if it's not working, throw it out. That's definitely where you want to go with it. Actually, let's kind of pull this back a little bit. Speaking of feeling inspired. Okay. Well, I definitely have to still work his head a little bit, but as you can see, we are moving along. Like I said before, guys, a sculpt can take as long as it takes. You know, try not to rush it. Try not to feel like you have to get to the end goal right away. You know, sometimes it takes a bit of time to get to where we want to be. I won't say goodbye. Oh, it's a lawyer. That's fair. Yeah, it's best for the group. That's funny. All right, guys. Let's see here. Kind of look at the top of this croc's head for a second. All right. I think we're gonna need to start putting some scales or some, really start just shaping his head a bit more. Actually do something like this right now. Get a plane change going on here. Do you use ZBrush for making environments? Yes, I do. Yeah, ZBrush is actually most of my workflow. Because like I said, everything I make for toys, everything I do I make is for a statue or a toy of sorts. So I never really have to leave ZBrush. I can do pretty much everything here and get it done. In fact, we're going to be making a base that is going to have some environment to it. So maybe like a little cave or like a little rock or something that he's going to be balanced on. I have a few ideas once we get to that point. Sculpture is my main work. I freelance right now, everything. Yeah, before the pandemic, I was doing freelance and graphic designing, but I was able to transition pretty well. But the trick with freelancing is you definitely got to hustle and be on your game. Got to reach out to companies and clients and just try to build a little portfolio of companies and clients to work with. Just kind of building his nose here real quick. Okay. All right, so we're going to continue working his face and stuff on the next stream. I might get a little bit more done. I'm feeling inspired to keep pushing it a little bit, but I won't go too crazy with it. So does your stuff get molded or need tweaking, or does it come out like the drawing? No, a lot of times, yeah, if your stuff is going to get molded, a lot of times what you have to end up doing is you'll send it off for the art director or your boss to take a look at, and then they'll come back and tell you if something is wrong, typically, at least in my experience. But for the most part, if you know it's going to get injected molded, then you got to watch out for overhangs, and you kind of follow a rule of thumb where you make sure there are no overhangs or sharp edges or things for the mold to get caught up on. So most of the stuff I do gets 3D printed, but if you're working with mold stuff, yeah, you got to watch out for overhangs. I have a question. Why do people prefer to work with studio and some prefer freelancing? I think it's just preference. I can't really speak for anybody but myself, but for myself, what I would definitely say is I prefer to work with companies and with individuals who want statues. But right now, I know there's a lot of companies who are just looking for freelance just due to restrictions. So my freelance is picked up because it's hard to be in a studio right now. Hopefully that'll change. Is there a pre-made model for the overhangs? No, not typically. Is there an automated draft angle checking feature in ZBrush? No, not that I'm aware of. But none that I've used. Let me put it that way. None that I've used, but definitely we'll look into that further. You probably would have to do an Ask ZBrush in YouTube if they have something like that, but I don't think so. All right, guys. Well, it's 8:01. I'm going over my time. Guys, thank you so much for stopping by. Thanks for the raid. Thanks for everything. You guys have been awesome. Great questions. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the sculpture. We got pretty decent. I was hoping to get a little bit further, but at the same time, I just love hanging out and talking to you guys. So, guys, thank you so much for stopping by. I really appreciate it. Take it easy. Enjoy yourself. Be safe out there. And I will see you next Sunday. I stream every Sunday here at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time from 5 to 8. And then, of course, you can catch me in my own personal streams Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday from 9 a.m. to noon. But this week on my own personal streams, guys, I'm actually doing anatomy studies Monday through Friday. So if you guys want human anatomy studies, please go follow me over on Twitch, YouTube, all that good stuff. Pop by and say hi. I would love to have you there. Ask your questions. All right, guys. I will talk to you later. There is a draft checker. Ooh. Awesome. Where is it? Under... I love learning new things too, guys. Polypaint menu there. Okay, I'm definitely going to look that up more. I have never used it, so... Alright, guys. Woohoo! Alright, guys. I will talk to you later. Bye.